Like always, let's start with our Digi-Egg cards. I'm running 4 copies of the BT7 Bukamon just to gain a memory whenever we play Digimon off sources, which is what mainly GigaSeadramon does when we Digivolve and when we attack with it. Now let's talk about our rookies. I'm running 4 copies of Sangomon, which is our main searcher of the deck to grab anything that is aquatic mainly, meaning being our Seadramons, our level 4, 5s, and 6s, anything within that line are all aquatic, which is really great. But we don't play a whole lot of Liberator cards, which we can only really fetch itself and Yao, which is totally fine. Then I'm running 4 copies of the EX8 Crabmon, which is mainly to give jamming to our stack so we can safely swing into the opponent's security, and its on-play effect to give blocker is sometimes nice for defense. And then I'm also running Crabmon X-Antibody, just so that we can gain the additional battle protection if we need to, and with its inherent effect to draw additional cards if we have 7 or fewer as we attack. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is that none of our Crabmons are actually aquatic in traits, they're actually crustaceans, meaning they can't be searched off Sangomon's effect. You guys might be thinking that might be a little bit inconsistent. Now, the reason why I want to run the Crabmon package is because I want to focus my stack building capabilities with X-Antibody and Cool Boy, and that's exactly why I want to Digivolve as much as I can with that and draw additional cards that way to gather my other pieces. But if you guys are not a fan of it, don't worry, I have other suggestions for other level 3s when we get into it in the tech choices too. But that's it for level 3s. Now let's talk about our level 4s. To begin, I'm running 3 copies of the EX8 Seadramon, which gives us a memory when we attack, but also the jamming inheritable that we need as we want to see that as much as possible when we climb into our stack. I'm also running 3 copies of the Promo Seadramon, which gives us the battle protection when it's played or Digivolve for an entire turn to a Digimon. And then it gives the Rush Inherited effect whenever we play out anything from sources, so then we attack immediately with it. After playtesting many different games with this deck, I realized that this Promo Seadramon is actually really great as it helps you push out for additional wins and extra attacks to help you close games off. But I would argue that it isn't actually as necessarily that you need to include. So therefore, if you guys don't have access to it, there are other budget alternatives and options that I would recommend in the tech choices later on. But one of them is to just maximize the EX8 Seadramon. Now let's talk about the X-Antibody Seadramon, which I'm running 4 copies of. This card lets you bottom deck one of your opponent's level 3 when you Digivolve or play it out. Then, if you have X-Antibody or regular Seadramon underneath the sources, you get to stun down one of your opponent's Tamers to prevent it from suspending for 1 whole turn. Its inherent effect pretty much gives you the same draw power as long as you have 7 or fewer cards while you're attacking. That's it for level 4s. Now let's talk about level 5s. I'm running 4 copies of the EX8 MetalSeadramon. The main usage of this card is mainly to unsuspend your Digimon, and there are 2 scenarios that you would utilize it. When you Digivolve into your stack into it, you get to unsuspend probably because you made an attack prior. The other application is that you want to play out from the sources of GigaSeadramon when you Digivolve or attack with it, so that your GigaSeadramon can unsuspend off this effect to then make another attack afterwards. Then it has that secondary effect to stun down one of your opponent's Digimon when you attack with it as long as you have 1 or more memory. Then its inherent effect also lets you unsuspend by tucking in one of your other Digimon into your stack, which happens quite often since you play stuff by effects anyways. Then moving on to MetalSeadramon X, which I'm running 4 copies of. You can Digivolve for 3 on top of level 4, or you can Digivolve for 0 on top of regular MetalSeadramon. When you get into this guy, whether by playing or Digivolving, you get to bottom deck one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. Then if you have X-Antibody or MetalSeadramon within its stack, you get to stun down one of your opponent's Digimon, which you can see this deck does a lot of. Its inherent effect simply prevents your opponents from redirecting the attacks from your stack. Now let's talk about our level 6s. I'm running 3 copies of MetalSeadramon Ace. Since part of this strategy of the deck is to stand a level 5 quite often, if your opponent attacks into you, you can blast Digivolve for free, so then you can De-digivolve 1 and then bottom deck something that's 7 costs or less. And with its all turns effects, it prevents your opponent's Digimon from suspending as long as you have 1 or more memory. Generally, I would only go into this card whenever I need to board control against the opponents. Now let's talk about GigaSeadramon, which I'm running 4 copies of. It has Security Attack +1, Reboot, and Blocker. When you Digivolve or whenever you attack with this guy once per turn, as long as you have X-Antibody or MetalSeadramon within its sources, you get to play out any level 5 or lower from its sources for free. Although for most X-Antibody decks, you generally want to have its regular same level version underneath it being the MetalSeadramon, but you don't always want to do that specifically for this card, even though you can evolve for 2. That is because MetalSeadramon becomes a bit of a liability when it comes to having its ace, and you only really want to stack it on top of it if you have utilized the effects of MetalSeadramon to remove and control the opponent's board. And that is why in half of the scenarios, I actually recommend utilizing the X-Antibody option card instead to gain the full benefits of these effects. Because once you play that Digimon out, you also get to De-digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon. One of my favorite removal combos is to actually play out MetalSeadramon X first, and then use GigaSeadramon's last effect to De-digivolve the opponent's stack by 2, and then MetalSeadramon X on play effect can clean it up as long as it's a level 4 or lower. And yes, you guys may have noticed that 5 memory is a lot to pay for this card, which is why you normally want to synergize with your level 5 attacks and then Digivolve into it alongside with the X-Antibody option card from BT9, which we'll talk about more later on and show you guys how it works in the combo segment. Then to round off for the rest of the Digimon and for the level 7 that I'm running of, the 1 copy of the new BT20 Omni X. This card is just so clutch and so good at getting rid of the opponent's Digimon and board wiping, which is also the epic finisher that this deck perfectly needs after doing a ton of checks. This card has saved me and won me so many games that I love it so much to the point that I want to run it as a 2 of. However, deck space is still a little tight. That's it for Digimon. Now let's talk about Tamers. I mentioned Cool Boy earlier, which I'm playing 2 copies of, and sometimes I want to bump it up to 3 just to increase my searching efficiency, and also so that when I climb up into my X-Antibody stacks, I can draw additional cards and gain additional memory to make more plays, which is incredibly good value. And then for our other Tamer, I'm running 2 copies of the BT19 Yao as our memory setter, but also helps us synergize our combos so that we can tuck in anything that's aquatic while we're attacking, and then we can potentially play it out off of GigaSeadramon's effect as well, and then further combo alongside with any on-play effects, which is really nice. Once again, keep in mind, Crabmon is only a crustacean, so that you can't tuck that one in, and you want to make sure that you're attacking with aquatic trait Digimon while you're doing so too. Now let's talk about options. I run 3 copies of the regular BT9 X-Antibody, which is actually way more useful in this deck. Like I mentioned earlier, because of the high cost Digivolution to go into GigaSeadramon, you actually want to combo and synergize with your attacks. Once you attack with it, you then Digivolve into it, and then you get to resolve all the when Digivolving and on-play effects, getting your maximum value of everything else. As a matter of fact, this option is way more important than Protoform, which I normally prefer for most other X-Antibody related decks. Then to round off for the rest of the staple options, I'm running 3 copies of Mental Training, 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost, and 1 copy of Blue Scramble. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also be including in this deck. Looping back to the conversation which I talked about Crabmon earlier, you guys can also play Swimmon instead to provide that jamming inheritable, which itself has aquatic trait, so then you're able to search it and synergize with your other combos within that specific trait. And that is why I would always keep this card in the back of my head just in case if I ever want to swap it in the future. If you guys ever want to increase your searching efficiency, consider running the EX3 Dracomon, which helps you grab anything with Dramon in its name. Because your Seadramons do have Dramon in its name, anything that is your level 4 and beyond is going to be searchable off this card. You also get to gain extra 1000 DP all turns whenever you suspend your Dramon in its name too. Speaking of Dracomon, there's also the BT11 Dracomon, which has that main effect letting you draw cards whenever you play anything with Dramon in its name, so that whenever your GigaSeadramon plays your Mega Sea or regular Seadras, you get to draw that additional card, and with its inherent effect, you can also gain the memory while doing so. Then for other level 4 Seadramons, aside from the promo one, you guys can substitute it for the BT15 one because itself has Rush, giving you almost the same capability to make that extra attack if you need to, and it provides jamming as its inheritable, which can give you that consistency to ensure your stack is always protected when you're battling against your opponent's security. Other than the Mega Seadramons as your level 5, you can still include the Huankunmon from EX6 just because it can help you play stuff from your sources, which is going to be your level 3. Either you can search more of it or utilize its on-play effects and actually use out Bukumon's memory gaining a little bit more efficiently aside from just GigaSeadramon alone. Its inherent effect is just like the regular Mega Seadramon, allowing to suspend when you tuck another Digimon underneath the source too. As a different level 7, you guys can also run the Aegis-Dramon, which you can potentially DNA if you ever have 2 stacks of your level 6s, because all you need is a blue and a black. When you DNA and get into it, you can bottom deck up to 14 play cost stuff on your opponent's side of the board, and then you can play up to 12 costs of stuff of DS trait Digimon, which you do have quite a handful of, which includes Crabmon, the Seadramon, and your Mega Seadramon, and as well as MetalSeadramon, and then utilize their on-play effects to control the board. One of the best things about this card is really its all turns effect to give you Digimon effect immunity for all your DS trait Digimon as long as you have 1 or more memory, and then while you have 1 or fewer, you get to stop all your opponent's Digimon's on-play effects. As another tamer, you guys can play the promo Yao from the latest tournament pack, which gives you additional memory to work with at the start of your main phase as long as your opponent has a Digimon on their side of the board. And whenever you tuck sources underneath your stack, which you do with your Mega Seadramon's effect or the memory setter Yao, you get to then climb up into your stack to Digivolve into a aquatic trait and reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. This way, it gives you a bit more memory management during your own turn as you combo up into your stack. And because we talked about Protoform earlier, I want to elaborate a little bit more on this card as well, which is nice to help you climb up your stack with reduced costs, and then whenever your stack would be threatened or removed, you can always give your recursion and go back into security, which I generally would recommend it as a one-off if you really want to include it. Alright, combos and how to play the GigaSeadramon deck here. Starting with your mulligan hand, you want to find all your searching pieces. Sangomon, Cool Boy, Memory Boost, Trainings to find everything that you need. Digivolve Crabmon in the back, that's the ideal way that I want to climb up my stack. Into any of the Seadramons, go into the X-Antibody versions, MetalSeadramon, Mega-CX, and then threaten the Seadramon Ace. And importantly, making sure you have X-Antibody, which is really crucial for you to get the maximum amount of benefits as you go into your GigaSeadramon. For this first combo, I'm going to show you guys the classic early game damage combo that I like to do just to go in for a check and establish a level 5 where you only need a training plus a boost, and then a rookie and 1 memory is where you need to start off. Push out the Crabmon. If you ever have Crabmon X, always have the option to Digivolve onto it just to draw and cycle additional cards. Now we're going to use Mental Training to Digivolve into Seadramon for free. Now we get to swing with Seadramon to the opponent's security. Assuming nothing that interrupts us, we're going to swing with jamming, and when it attacks, we get to gain a memory. Afterwards, to continue to build our stack with as many X-Antibody sources as possible, we want to Digivolve into Seadramon X, which lets us bottom deck one of the opponent's Digimon that's level 3 or lower and stun down one of their Tamers. If you don't have it, that's totally fine. Going into X-Antibody is always just to draw additional cards and get additional benefits, but you want to end the turn by Digivolving into a MetalSeadramon, passing your opponent down to 1 memory, and with its when Digivolving effect, you get to unsuspend. By establishing MetalSeadramon during the opponent's turn, if they ever come out and try to attack into you, this is where you can go into your Metal Sea Ace and counter against them, and if they do, you Digivolve, De-digivolve one of their Digimon, and bottom deck something that they have that's 7 costs or less. By going into MetalSeadramon Ace, this is going to help you set up where you can go into GigaSeadramon in the following turn to continue to attack and play even more stuff out without necessarily needing to utilize X-Antibody, since you have Metal Sea underneath and you can Digivolve into GigaSead for only 2 costs. For our next combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can climb up differently with a different stack, and this time you have Cool Boy set up with another boost. As long as it's training or memory gaining, you want to continue to Digivolve up your stack that way. And we're going to start with Sangomon this time. We're going to go ahead and push out and use the delay memory boost to gain 2 memory. Now, because we don't have jamming, this is why the promo Seadramon really helps and comes in. We get to Digivolve into this one and give it battle protection that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn, which is pretty much jamming for our entire turn, because we're going to continue to make attacks later on. Now we're going to Digivolve into Seadramon X, where we get to bottom deck the level 3, as well as stun down a Tamer just like before, suspend Cool Boy to gain a memory and draw a card. This is here where we want to actually make sure to attack as the level 4. At the end of the attack with the jamming, we get to gain a memory with Sangomon. Now we can Digivolve into MetalSeadramon once again, but this time we're at 3 memory, so we can keep our turn and continue to play and unsuspend itself. I'm going to then Digivolve into MetalSeadramon X. Now I can bottom deck the opponent's Digimon that's level 4 or lower and stun down an additional Digimon. This is where X-Antibody is really important, because now this is the moment where you want to slide it underneath, or sometimes the nice thing is you want to slide it underneath a little bit earlier to make sure you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand so that you can ensure yourself to draw additional cards and cycle through. Now we're going to go ahead and use MetalSeadramon X to attack the opponent's security, draw if we haven't yet, and then we can now Digivolved into GigaSeadramon for the 5 cost. This is really important, having this X-Antibody, is because it allows us to actually make that additional check, and then we can get the full effects of GigaSeadramon. GigaSeadramon, when Digivolving effect, lets us play out a level 5 or lower because we have X-Antibody. We're going to go ahead and play out a MetalSeadramon X right here, assuming the opponent has a level 6 on the board or something big that we want to remove. Both these effects are going to trigger at the same time. We're going to use GigaSeadramon's effect to De-digivolve 2 on that big stack so that our MetalSeadramon can bottom deck that level 4 afterwards. Keep in mind, we don't get to stun down the opponent's Digimon because we don't have X-Antibody or the regular MetalSeadramon underneath the MetalSeadramon that we just played. Because we play something out from sources by effect, Bukamon is going to gain us a memory, and then now we're going to go for 2 checks with battle protection into opponent's security, and then we get to end the turn with Reboot and a 13k blocker that is also cannot be deleted by battle. And what this does here is just like before, establishing a level 5 so we threaten against the opponents with the Metal Sea Ace. If they ever attack into us, we can blast Digivolve and then disrupt them that way too. And now for this combo, I want to show you guys all the flexibilities that you guys can pull off and make multiple attacks and unsuspend non-stop once you establish your first GigaSeadramon. And this time we're going to showcase with the BT19 memory setter Yao Xing Lang and how it kind of works. You're going to start your turn at 3 memory, and then we're going to go ahead and attack with GigaSeadramon. We're going to actually suspend the Yao to play something that we want Because we don't have jamming this time, we're going to place the Seadramon. Very important to make sure that you're attacking with an aquatic trait so that you're tucking in also an aquatic trait that's level 5 or lower underneath it. The nice thing is you can sequence your effects this way where you can put a level 5 underneath and then play out that same level 5 of GigaSeadramon. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and play out this MetalSeadramon right here. With its on play effect, we're allowed to unsuspend the GigaSeadramon. Because we play something by an effect, we get to gain a memory of Bukamon here, and also draw an additional card if we have 7 or fewer, and then it's going to be for 2 checks jamming. At the end of attack, we're going to gain a memory. Keep in mind, since we have the promo Seadramon, this gives this MetalSeadramon rush so that it can go ahead and attack this turn. So let's go ahead and bridge into the combo. Since we have 5 memory now, we're going to Digivolve into MetalSeadX, bottom deck the level 4 or lower, stun down the opponent's Digimon, make sure to tuck in X-Antibody, and we can even go into a second GigaSeadramon so that we can play out another target here. This time, let's play out this Mega C. Now this GigaSeadramon gets the De-digivolve 2, and then you get to bottom deck a level 4 or lower as well. We can go ahead and attack with the GigaSeadramon using the MetalSeadramon's effect to tuck back in the MetalSeadX, so it's also unblockable to unsuspend, and that's going to be going in for another 2 checks. You can continue to swing for another 2 checks here, swing another 2 checks here. That is essentially 8 checks in total in one single turn, which is absolutely insane. And if you ever need to, you can go for overkill. You can go into Omni X to clear out your opponent's board and also make another swing at the end of the turn as well. And that is one of the coolest things about this deck, as you want to utilize pieces from your sources to combo off and sequence differently to play stuff back out, use on play effects, gain memory, gain advantage, and continue the cycle, and then tuck things back in to continuously unsuspend and make multiple hits to finish off your opponents. Make sure to get your very own Initialized Spark collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.